Behance members are now sharing their incredible portfolios online. To all of you who are actively engaged with us, with our product teams to develop new tools, offer direct feedback, and get early access to cool new technology, thank you. It is these incredible collaborations that rally our teams all around the world. As we continue to bring transformational technologies to market, we're committed to playing a leadership role in ensuring its responsible use for the good of society. To all of you who are actively engaged with digital literacy and inclusive design, with our product teams to develop new tools. As part of our Content Authenticity Initiative, we published a draft specification for an open standard to combat online disinformation. If the past 18 months have taught us anything, it is that the power of creativity can unite and change the world. My plea is to keep telling your stories, learn from each other, inspire each other. The future belongs to those who create. Now let's create tomorrow together. With that, I'd like to welcome the host for Max and our Chief Product Officer, Scott Belsky.
Thank you, Shantanu. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Adobe Max. Before we jump in, let me remind you that following today's keynote, the Max team has curated sessions over the next 3 days that you are going to love. We'll have conversations with some of your favorite artists, like Oscar-winning director Chloe Zhao and actors Tilda Swinton and Bryan Cranston, along with workshops with leading designers, visual artists, and Adobe's own passionate experts and evangelists. Please explore the options and build your own schedule to make the most of it. Now let's face it, it has been quite a year since we last got together, filled with moments of both optimism and struggle. As I think about my own ups and downs this past year or so, I am struck by the role artists and their creations played in lifting my spirits and helping me cope. It's amazing how creativity helps us make sense of the world, keeps us inspired, and heals us when we need it most. It is fueled by emotion and suffering, but it yields healing and hope. Take, for example, the early 1500s, when Venice was emerging from an earlier wave of pandemic. A group of city elders constructed this magnificent building dedicated to San Rocco, the saint seen as a protector against plague. They commissioned Tintoretto to provide the paintings, masterpieces that ultimately set the course for the Renaissance as we know it. And in the centuries since, from the Renaissance to Picasso's Guernica, we see it again and again with the Japanese tsunami, the AIDS epidemic, and the ongoing fight for civil rights, all the way up to our current pandemic. Over and over, this cycle repeats itself. A period of despair spawns a creative rebirth. The art created reflects our suffering, but it also projects our hope. And this time is no different. A new renaissance of sorts is upon us right now. A resurgence of making in the form of creative side projects, artistic collaborations using new technologies, content-driven small businesses, and a deeply felt desire to take creative risk. At Adobe, we firmly believe that the coming years will be about renewal and reinvention for creative careers, for broken industries in need of reimagination, and for society at large. So let's all rise to this occasion together. And we at Adobe are honored to be on this journey with you. So our teams have spent much of the last year thinking about our responsibility to outfit you for this creative renaissance. The roadmap ahead for Creative Cloud is designed with 3 goals in mind. First, to really enable connected creativity. Second, to unleash creative potential. And third, to empower creative careers. Let's start out by imagining what's possible in a vastly more connected and collaborative era of creativity, where everything you make is in the cloud, accessible to anyone, where teams work together without version conflicts or bureaucracy, where any asset you need is always at your fingertips and up to date. Well, today marks a major inflection in the journey of Creative Cloud. We're making Creative Cloud as much about collaboration as it is about creativity. We're making Creative Cloud more accessible on the web, and we're incorporating Frame.io, the industry-leading cloud-native platform for collaborating on video production. I can't wait to share with you how Creative Cloud is advancing connected creativity later this morning. Okay, so let's talk about unleashing creative potential. Our teams across Creative Cloud from imaging and photography to video and 3D, are innovating to help you create in ways you have never dreamed of. Many of these breakthroughs come from Adobe Sensei, our artificial intelligence engine that makes it possible for you to do with a few clicks what previously would have taken hours of intricate work. You will not believe some of the magic coming to Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and other Creative Cloud apps, and we will be showing you those this morning. We will also spend some time this morning on major breakthroughs in the area of 3D and immersive design. Our team is on a mission to open the world of 3D creation to all creative people. Not only those with the new Adobe Substance 3D collection of tools, but also by integrating the industry-leading Substance capabilities and materials into apps like Photoshop and Illustrator. Towards the end of the keynote, you will see some absolutely mind-blowing superpowers of our 3D and immersive tools that I guarantee will stretch your brain with new possibilities. Finally, I want to share a number of initiatives to help you thrive in your creative career and journey. An essential part of Behance's mission is to grow the careers of creative people. Over the last year, more than 160 million people visited Behance to view creative projects more than 2 billion times. And now, in addition to the hundreds of hours of tutorials and workshops streaming on the Adobe Live platform each week, Creative Cloud members on Behance can now offer a subscription to their live streams and assets, and we at Adobe take zero cut of whatever you earn. Through our new Hire Me button, thousands of Behance members every week are getting new work. And we're adding the ability to display and publicize the NFTs you create on Behance, no matter where you've chosen to mint them. If you're not already on Behance, check it out. Okay, let's get started with collaboration and the future of connected creativity. There's one ambition we all share. We want our creative work to have an impact. Now, it's tempting to think that impact springs solely from the creativity of our ideas, but that's only half the equation. Your impact as a creator is the product of your creativity and how organized you are. Creativity times organization equals impact. For decades, our teams at Adobe focused mostly on the creativity side of this equation. But as creativity becomes increasingly collaborative, more critical to every company's digital experience, and more complex, it's not enough for Creative Cloud to help you make a stunning composite or illustration. In the era of connected creativity, Creative Cloud must also function as your creative system, keeping you connected to everything and everyone you need to make a project successful. There are 3 pillars to creative organization: your assets, your apps, and your team. Let's start with your assets. The best way to keep them organized is with Creative Cloud libraries. Bria Alexander from our design team is here to share the very latest.
Hi, I'm Bria Alexander from Adobe Design, and I am super excited to share some of the newest features and updates to Creative Cloud libraries. CC libraries are the central place to store all of your creative assets: color palettes, fonts, common illustrations, versions of your branded assets, and even audio files all live in harmony in CC libraries everywhere you need to access them. And this year, we've made it easier than ever for teams to work in libraries. First, we've introduced nested groups in libraries to make it easier to stay organized, create subgroups, and even subgroups for your subgroups to keep everything where it needs to be. Libraries have always been a great way to organize your own assets, and today we're introducing team libraries so you can share your collections with teams across your organization without limitations. Finally, I'm excited to give a sneak peek of versioning that will be available soon. View what your libraries look like in their past life with the time machine capabilities of versioning. Find old creative elements, rediscover previous states of your branded assets, and watch the evolution of your design system come together all over again. And all these features and more are available across Creative Cloud, including Creative Cloud Desktop and creative tools like Photoshop and Illustrator, as well as some of the most popular non-Adobe apps like Microsoft PowerPoint and Google Slides.
Thanks, Bria. Now let's talk about your apps in the era of connected creativity. A truly connected creative application makes collaborating as easy and frictionless as creating. As we spend time with many of you watching your day-to-day work, 2 things became clear. First is the importance of cloud documents. With cloud documents, you can access your work across devices, make sense of changes with version control, and easily share a file with anyone you're working with. Second is the vital need for you and your collaborators to create together anywhere. our teams embarked on a bold journey, starting with Photoshop, to unlock frictionless, creative collaboration. Get ready, folks. You are in good hands with the one and only Terry White, who, by the way, just celebrated 25 years helping the creative community learn how to use our products. Congrats.
Thanks, Scott. I'm really excited. I can't wait to show this. Let's get to it. Photoshop is a great tool for graphic designers and photographers and just about everyone. But what makes it even better now is I can send my Photoshop files out to my stakeholders for review, for markup, for comments. With the new Share To panel, I can just go ahead and click right here in Photoshop in the upper right corner, and I can get a public link. This way I can share it via email, Slack, social media, direct message, however I want. Now, if I head over to my web browser, you'll notice that the link loads in the browser. This is exactly what my clients would get. So they get the ability to see the information about the document, but best of all, they get a comments panel where they can go in and leave their comments. So for example, I can say, looks good. But if they want to get very specific, they can click on the pen tool. I can click right on the astronaut's face shield, and I can say something like, remove the reflections. Now, what if they need to do more than just dropping a pen? They want to illustrate something. So here's an actual pen tool, and they can draw right on the canvas. Flip over. Okay, these comments have been left, and they're tied and associated with the cloud document. That means they travel with the cloud document anywhere that it goes, whether it's Photoshop on desktop or even Photoshop on iPad. I can click right on the brand new comments panel. I'll see those comments come right in as they just did. So I can see not only the comment, but I actually see the markup right on the Photoshop document, which is awesome. But what if I actually need to share this file with someone who needs to work on it? I need to share it with another retoucher or another designer. Well, if I go back to the Share To menu, you'll notice that I have the option to also share this via email. So I can key in the person's email address, send it to them, and be very specific with the kind of link that they're going to get. And it will load into the same view that you saw before for the reviewers, but you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner, I've got a choice for Open In. And I'm very happy for the first time to give you a look at Photoshop Web Beta. This is an extension of Photoshop that allows users to do reviews, markup, and quick edits on the fly in the browser. So we can see some familiar tools on the left-hand side, especially if you've used Photoshop on the iPad. I see my cloud document front and center, ready to go. I see all my layers on the right-hand side, and I still have the comments panel. So as I click on or hover over the various comments, we can actually see them on the canvas. Now again, this is for doing quick edits. So let's get to it. I'll go ahead and move our astronaut over. Let's go ahead and pick her up. Let's move her over a little bit. And to address one of those comments, I'm going to do a little bit of a scale, proportionally, of course. And let's do a flip over. And I want to remove those reflections. So I'll grab my content-aware spot healing brush, and I need to make my brush bigger. And without thinking about it, I just use my bracket keys just like I would in Photoshop on desktop. So we'll go ahead and remove those reflections quickly and easily. And again, this is great for doing these kind of quick edits. Next up, I'm going to grab my quick selection tool, and let's go ahead and make a quick selection of the face shield because I want to add a little bit of color to it. So we'll use our hue and saturation adjustment layer, and that way it's non-destructive, and I can make my adjustments just like that. Now again, all of these adjustments, everything I'm doing, all the layers I'm affecting are being saved as a cloud document. And best of all, if I need to do more, I can always open this in Photoshop on the desktop to get access to all the power of Photoshop, all my tools, all my filters, everything I would ever need. So that was a quick look at Photoshop on the web.
Okay, your eyes did not deceive you. You can now access Photoshop files anywhere. You can give feedback and even make edits anywhere with a web browser. This opens so many possibilities. Now keep in mind, bringing 30 years of Photoshop features and code to a new platform like the web is a journey. But we are starting now. And starting today, we're extending Photoshop to the web in public beta. We'll be adding more capabilities over the coming months, guided by your feedback. You know, for more than 2 decades, you needed a pretty powerful computer to use a product like Photoshop. Then 2 years ago, we launched Photoshop on the iPad, expanding creative power to a mobile device. So we are thrilled to now make Photoshop available to millions more people around the world on the web. This simply would not be possible without our partnership with the Chrome team at Google. I'm excited to have Hiroshi Lockheimer from Google here so we can talk more about how we're working together on the future of web apps. Hiroshi, thanks for joining us. So I know many people at Google have jumped in to help us extend Photoshop onto the Chrome browser, and this is an ongoing journey, and we really appreciate the help. So why are these efforts a priority for Google?
Scott, first of all, thanks for having us, and thanks for the partnership. Really appreciate it. So this is so important because when you think about the evolution of the web, we've gone from pretty static news sites, web pages, things like that, to maybe cat videos, and then maybe it was slightly more dynamic applications. Remember the first time you used a map on the web, and it was dynamic and responsive. And now people want to create documents. They want to create things. And so an app like Photoshop is so important for the web.
Now, with changes to web technology, processing power, and just generally the way software is developed these days, the scope of what people will be able to accomplish on the browser is really growing. What do you see as the future of web apps? Where are we going?
Yeah, well, a number of things. We've added a lot of capabilities to the web, which you're now using, like Web GPU or WebAssembly. These things make it more performant. These very complicated things, complicated behind the scenes, but as a user, of course, you're just accomplishing more. And then also, sharing, I think, is such an intrinsic part of the web. Everything's a URL. Everything can be shared. And we think that could really change the workflow of how people use Photoshop.
So a big part of our mission at Adobe is to bring creativity to all. How do you see the shift to web apps empowering all kinds of people around the world in new ways?
Well, I think, with the web, because the device you're using may not need to be as powerful as the thing that you're trying to accomplish. I think there's a big sort of democratizing aspect to this. Different capabilities in the hardware, but the web apps still work. Maybe you can do more things in the data center. So that opens up the possibilities. Also, the fact that you don't have to install an app. That takes away friction that I think a lot of people feel. So hopefully this really opens up Photoshop to so many more people.
Well, we're excited to work with you, Hiroshi, and thanks again for joining us at Max. OK, so we've discussed the first 2 pillars of connected creativity, your assets and your apps. Now let's talk about your team. Whether it is a big campaign, a new publication, or the end-to-end of a new product experience, how well your team is organized and aligned will determine your impact. In the old world of creativity, teams got organized using a printer, gallons of ink, and a wall. Teams printed out all the latest iteration of their work and posted it all up. And of course, these versions were outdated from the moment they were printed. Creative teams got aligned by walking around together with red pens and Post-it notes. That system worked, sort of. But the world has changed. Now, creative teams are frequently spread around the globe. There may be a handful of people working simultaneously on a single asset. And everyone from the C-suite to legal may want to review a project. Organization for creativity is in dire need of an upgrade. So we spent the last few years imagining a better way, a way that brings all of the content and people involved together with a shared context, and all without leaving your creative tools. We call these features Creative Cloud Spaces and Canvases. They are coming to Creative Cloud early next year, but we're going to give you a sneak peek right now. Here to demonstrate Creative Cloud collaboration in action is our Director of Product, Zarana G. Zarana, ready to show everyone what your team is working on?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm working on my Microsoft Surface Pro here in the browser in a space. And a space is essentially a shared project that allows me to have all my content together as well as all my team members. Now we're working on this very Max campaign here, and I have content that really spreads across bitmap images, as well as Adobe native files like PSD and AI files. And even here, we have web links that link out to different resources that we're working with. At the top here, we have libraries. I can go ahead and click into the library that you just saw Bree show, and you can see I have the font types, the brand assets, the colors, etc. Essentially, I have all the content together in a single place. Now, let me go ahead and add Brian here, Brian Yap, who's working on our social posts. And remember, as a member of the space, he has the ability to access all the content and get started quickly. And this is where I'm excited to introduce the new Creative Cloud Canvas. Here you can see Creative Cloud Canvases are essentially an infinite whiteboards that allows me to visualize all these assets, right, in a single place. You can see there's Photoshop content, Illustrator content, as well as projects that are in different phases, comments, stickers, whatnot, and essentially my entire team can stay aligned. I can, of course, access that shared project, the spaces that I was just in, and I can add any of the files here. Let's go ahead and add this PSD file. And the really cool thing about Adobe native files is that when I place them on Canvas, these are actually linked files, which means that they're always linked to the source. If they get updated, I'll get the updates here on the canvas, and I can always be assured that I have the latest and greatest. But if I want to access deeper editing tools, that's easy enough to do. I can just simply right-click on this and open this in Photoshop on web or the desktop. Now, if I don't have files in Creative Cloud, that's certainly not a problem. As you would expect, I can easily drag in any content from my local drive directly onto Canvas like so. All right, for this next part, what I want to do is actually carve out a little section here so that Brian can add his social posts. On the left-hand side here, you can see I have a bunch of everyday tooling. I can use this tooling to really lay out visually my content and organize things in a pleasing way. And really cool thing with fonts is that we've integrated with Adobe Fonts, so we have thousands of fonts to choose from, really important for different levels of expressivity. But for this particular part, I'm actually just going to duplicate this text layer. So let's go ahead and call this social posts. And the other thing I'm going to do is add a comment and let Brian know. Brian, please add your social post. All right. The really cool thing here about comments is that we have pins, and the pins can be associated with any object on Canvas. So when Brian joins, he'll know exactly where to go. All right, now as I mentioned earlier, this canvas is created inside of a space. And in fact, I see that Brian has already joined. You can see his cursor here, his presence here. He's moving about the canvas, and looks like he got that comment, and he's adding his social post. This is real-time co-editing with Adobe files. All right, things are looking pretty good here. Let's go ahead and let him know that I'm aligned with what the direction that he's moving. Drop in a sticker here. And again, this is all live, right? So he's going to get that comment and know that things are looking pretty good. Now, I'm looking at this a little bit closer. I'm realizing that he forgot to add one of the social posts that I want him to include. And another really great way is I can invoke a call. And anybody who's a collaborator on this canvas can join. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Zorana, what's up?
Do you think you can add that post that we're working on last night?
Oh yeah, sure, no problem. I'll have it up for you in a second.
Awesome, thank you, bye. All right, so while Brian is adding that, I can see that things are looking pretty good, and at this point, I think I'm ready to share this out with Scott, our stakeholder. All I need to do is click this copy link, and I can share that with Scott, and when he's ready, he can join, and he can be always assured that he has the latest and greatest. And that's the next generation of collaboration with Creative Cloud spaces and canvases for all creative teams. Thank you.
Thank you, Zorana. So I hope it's now clear what we mean when we talk about the future of connected creativity. Your assets, images, fonts, brushes are always in sync and at your fingertips within Creative Cloud libraries. Your apps are able to save cloud documents that are accessible anywhere on desktop, mobile devices, and starting today in a browser with the extension of Photoshop to the web. And your team will be able to get organized and aligned with Creative Cloud spaces and canvases launching next year. As creative people, we make our greatest impact when we are connected and working together seamlessly. Next up, let's talk about unleashing creative potential. We're excited to show you some of these many innovations throughout Creative Cloud. Let's start with finding great component parts like images, video footage, and audio tracks. This is where so many creative projects start and where we squander so much of our time. Shambhavi Kadam is here to show you how Adobe Stock is making it incredibly easy to find just the assets you need. Shambhavi.
Hi, I'm Shambhavi Kadam from the Adobe Stock team. Today, I want to share with you what's new with Adobe Stock. Adobe Stock is the most comprehensive collection of high-quality creative assets, including photos, vectors, illustrations, templates, 3D assets, videos, and audio tracks. Today, we're launching some new AI-powered search features that make it easier to find the right videos and music for your
Wherever
projects.
inspiration strikes.
Now, in searching for
I'm
videos,
tremendously
you can
proud
filter by
of the
shot
dedication
size
and
or
resilience
shot angle.
of our team over the
We've
last
also
year
made it easier to
to
find
deliver.
the perfect audio track for your project. Just upload an example song, and Stock will find results that are similar.
Unique skill set, my personality, in order to make the world a better place.
I want to heal people with my artwork.
What I tried to do is to offer a little bit of peace, love, and positivity to people who need it.
I think it is important for us to try to find levity in the worst situation. Nicole.
I get this feeling of, like we can kind of take a moment to just, and to breathe, and to just be with ourselves and each other in a newer way.
I'm really excited to show you some of my favorite new features in Photoshop. Let's get started. Making selections is a big part of using Photoshop, and you might go back to the days of using the Magic Wand tool, where you click and it selects based on colors. Last year, we introduced the amazing Object Selection tool, and this year, we're making it even better. So if I take the Object Selection tool and you drag around an object, it will just basically make that selection for you. However, you'll notice that when I deselect and I just simply hover over the objects, it identifies them, and all I have to do is simply click. If I want to add to that selection, I can hold down the Shift key and click. And if I want to subtract from that selection, if I hold down my Option or Alt key, for example, I can subtract the flame. Now that I got the flame subtracted, the next thing that I want to do is adjust the color of these candles. So I'll head over to my Layers panel, where I've got the ability to add a hue and saturation adjustment layer, like that. Now that's great, but wait, there's more. If I go to the original background and I right-click, I get a new option called Mask All Objects. So when I click on that, it will calculate and figure out all the objects in the scene as if I'd gone through them one by one with the object selection tool and clicked on them. And it generates all these masks for me in the layers panel, saving me time. And that's going to be a great addition for any Photoshop user, the new auto masking in the object selection tool. Next up, let's head over to one of my near and dear favorites for people that work with Illustrator. I've got an empty canvas here, and I've got an Illustrator file created by artist Victoria Pavlov, and you'll notice that she made lots of layers in this file. So I'll just drag my selection tool around everything, and I'll just do a copy. Now when I head over to Photoshop and I do a paste, I get something new. I get the option to bring it in as layers. So when I click OK, it brings over all my layers from Illustrator, nicely organized in layer groups. And if I go to, for example, the vase layer, and I go to my direct selection tool here in Photoshop and double click, I even get the ability to edit the vector shapes that it creates. So I don't have to go back to Illustrator to do it. So that's the new interoperability between Illustrator and Photoshop, which would be great for anyone doing design work between the two. Now, last year we made a big deal about AI-based neural filters. And this year we're taking it up a notch with not only new filters, but improvements as well. I've got this landscape that's kind of barren in the foreground. I wish it were a little more green. So if I go to my neural filters, I've got a new neural filter called Landscape Mixer. And when I click on Landscape Mixer, it gives me choices. I can use one of the preset photos, great. I can click on custom and use one of my own photos. And I even have season sliders at the bottom. So I see a nice green photo in the presets, I'll just click on it and it takes my photo and calculates and adds all that greenery into it. And that's great. But wait a minute, it's fall. I don't need it to be this summer look. Well, now I can just drag autumn over, I would say in the 30 to 40% range, and it will calculate what's there and give me those fall colors on my scene. All right, next up. My personal favorite, my mom and dad. A black and white picture, an old picture of my mom and dad. And I would love to colorize this. I've spent hours, weeks, months colorizing old photos before. Well, now if I go to Neural Filters, I get the option to choose the new improved colorized neural filter, which figures out skin tones. It's better for portraits now than it ever was. So just with one click, I get a great head start to my colorization process, or it might even be the final result. Either way, I've got a layer to continue working on if I want to do more. Now, Colorize isn't just for people, it also works great for landscapes. If I go into this landscape, for example, and I go to my filter menu, come down to Neural Filters, and go to Colorize, it will, again, identify everything in the scene and apply colors to it. But in this case, it guessed a little wrong in the sky. I don't like that brown color in the sky. So all I have to do is use the new feature in the right-hand corner for focal points, and I can click in the sky, and up comes a color panel, allowing me to choose what color that area of the sky should be. So I just choose the color that I want, and it instantly changes the sky to that color. And those are just a few of my favorite features in Photoshop. Be sure to check out my breakout session where I go through a lot more. Cheers, everyone.
Hi, I'm Jinjin from Adobe's design team. Today, I'm excited to share the latest updates to Adobe Fresco, our drawing and painting app for iPads, iPhones, and Windows 10 PCs. Let's see what's new. Fresco now has adjustment layers, which make it easy to non-destructively adjust the colors and values in your work. These can be modified whenever you want, including in Photoshop, making it easy to harmonize your color palette and tweak it however you like. We've also added perspective grids, which make it easy to draw in 1, 2, or 3-point perspective. Once you set your vanishing points, your brush marks will automatically snap to the grid. And you're not limited to simple lines. Fresco's drawing aids are also traceable in perfect perspective. Next up, Fresco is making simple animation just as easy as drawing and painting with new motion features. It's simple and intuitive. Make motion frame by frame by using the timeline with onion skinning, or put your work on a path and take advantage of tons of options like adding multiples, scattering, and more. Combine frame-by-frame motion with paths to get some amazing effects. Join our breakout sessions to learn even more about Fresco. Thank you.
Thank you, Jinjin and Terry. Among all the innovations in Terry's demo, I hope you noticed how quickly those complex AI-driven transformations happened. As Shantanu mentioned, over the last year, we've worked hard to get apps like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, Lightroom, and more running natively on Apple's M1 chips, and the results have been incredible. Photoshop is running more than twice as fast as it did on the older chips, which means you can go almost instantly from inspiration to expression. And I hope any of you who haven't tried Fresco yet, fix that today. Fresco is free to download and use on iPad, Surface tablet, Wacom Mobile Studio Pro, and iPhone. And it is the only pro-level drawing and painting app that works in the cloud, so you can start a project on your phone and pick up on your iPad or another device. There's a lot more to learn about Fresco at our illustration and painting sessions over the next few days. Okay, let's keep moving. Design is such a powerful force today. It shapes how we interact with nearly everything, from the apps we use, to the websites we visit, to the companies we do business with. From Accenture to T-Mobile to Carnegie Hall, more and more organizations are designing compelling experiences with Adobe XD, our free-to-use product for experience design and prototyping. Nicolae Vin is here to show how XD is making it easier to work together and add new kinds of content to your designs and prototypes. After that, Brian Yap will share how we're making design in Illustrator more efficient, more powerful, and available anywhere.
Hi, I'm Nicolae Vin, and I lead the design team behind Adobe XD, the all-in-one UX UI design tool that's tightly integrated into Photoshop, Illustrator, and the rest of Creative Cloud. Let's have a look at what's new. On the collaboration front, Adobe XD now has first-class support for Creative Cloud spaces. So now it's incredibly easy for your whole design team to share work, manage your design system, and invite clients and stakeholders to access just what you want them to see. We've also been hard at work bringing more motion goodness into Adobe XD. Starting today, you can now import Lottie animations, which means you can bring in a ton of great vector animations from the huge community of Lottie creators working with After Effects. And finally, video. You can now bring full motion video clips right into XD into your design. You can even add interactivity to these videos, making your designs even more dynamic than ever before. Those are just a few of the new features that we've added to XD, so check out our breakout sessions to learn lots more. And thank you.
We're really excited to share with you some new and updated features in Illustrator. Now, starting with Illustrator on the iPad, I'm going to start off with the pencil tool. I'm going to turn the smoothing all the way up because I got a pretty shaky hand, and I'm just going to draw directly over my sketch. I can start and stop when I need to, and Illustrator really smooths out my line as I go. And in just a short amount of time, I'm actually able to create my sketch as a vector path, which is just really cool because it's totally editable. So let's use Simplify Path to really smooth things out and get rid of some extra points that I don't need. I'm also going to go ahead and increase the stroke width and add rounded caps and corners to really match the style of lettering that I'm looking for. I like this. This is a great start. So what if I want to actually recreate something that's a little more complicated than that? Like say this drawing I did of a flower graphic. But instead of actually drawing it out manually, I'm going to use Illustrator on the iPad's newest feature, Vectorize. With just one button, it's going to actually analyze my sketch and turn it into a vector graphic. So I'm going to change the color. Let's rotate this a bit. I'm going to use the double modifier just to duplicate it a few times into my design. This is starting to look good, but I definitely want to add in some shapes to the background. And we're bringing over some familiar desktop features, one of which is custom brushes. So with just a few simple shapes, I made a vine brush, and I'm going to use that to add in some decorative elements to the background. Now, drawing with a brush in Illustrator really isn't that new to anyone, but doing it on the iPad is a completely different experience. So let me grab the lettering here and bring it forward. And I think I'm going to change the color so it pops a little better. Okay, let's go ahead and move to the desktop. So my file's open on the desktop. The first thing I want to do is just add a little feature to the vine brushes themselves. So I'm going to grab the spiral tool and add a few little fun curly cues here and there. Let's see, maybe one over here and another one over here. Looks pretty good. But what if I want to explore a 3D look in Illustrator? Well, we've been rebuilding and enhancing the 3D features in Illustrator, and I'm going to show you some of those features that are available today as a technology preview. So you can actually go in and take your 2D object, you can add dimension, create depth, use really precise live on-canvas controls to move and rotate. You can add lighting effects. I'm going to go ahead and add a drop shadow here, but I'm actually going to raise the height of the light source so it's a little less dramatic. And I'm going to turn on ray tracing so you can really see those high fidelity 3D effects in action. And this is a vector object, so it has a fill and a stroke. So just by simply changing the stroke color, you can see that it adds a cool dimensional effect to your 3D object. I'm really digging where this is at. So now, at this point, I want to share and get feedback. So I can just copy a link here and send it to anyone I want to see the file. They'll be able to view this project on Creative Cloud on the web, which is just the perfect tool for previewing and giving feedback. I can add comments. There's a comments window here. I'm going to go ahead and use the drawing tool to actually circle a little section here. I'm just going to leave myself a note here to fix the spacing. And once I hit submit, that comment is actually attached to my Creative Cloud document. So anywhere I open up the file, I'll be able to see the comments. And when I go back to the desktop and open the new comments panel in Illustrator, I can see the comment. But now what if I want to share the file with someone else to work on it? So I can go up to invite to edit, and I can actually add another collaborator. You can open it on the desktop, or you can also open it in Illustrator on the web, which I'm really excited to show you a sneak of. And we'll be launching as a beta this year at Max. It's got a modern UI similar to Illustrator on the iPad, and you can see, because it's a cloud doc, my comments are actually in the file still. So I'm actually going to go ahead and fix the little spacing issue I saw earlier. I'll just move this up a little bit. And actually, I just noticed that one of these curly cues I need to adjust a little bit. So you can see that I'm actually making edits to vector paths in a web browser. So cool. So now you can see that Illustrator is really evolving to let you work in exciting new ways that allow you to really push the limits of your creativity and work super fast. We're really excited and can't wait to see what you create with what's new in Illustrator this year.
Thanks, Brian and Coy. Adobe XD keeps getting better and better. And there is so much to be excited about in Illustrator. We are extending this iconic creative tool to the web so you can work on your designs anywhere. And with Illustrator available on the web, it is so easy to share your work, gather comments, and collaborate. Illustrator on the web is launching as a private beta, so please sign up today and you can help guide us as we add more tools and features. Okay, let's shift to perhaps the most ubiquitous form of creativity today, photography. Our smartphones have turned all of us into avid photographers, and now the challenge is to do more with every photograph we capture. Well, the rallying cry of the team that makes Lightroom, our cross-platform app for editing, organizing, and sharing your images, is to make all of us better photographers. We do this with the world's greatest editing suite, and with Sensei-powered tools that help you make sophisticated edits to specific parts of your image. And we do it by convening a community of photographers who share their expertise in ways that make it easy for you to apply what you learn to your own images. So let's start out by hearing from some of the members of our photography community, and then Brian O'Neill Hughes and Katrine Eisman will share with us the very latest in Lightroom.
I don't know if you could hear.
Get rid of this highlight, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
It's been a struggle, and it's kind of been like a roller coaster ride.
For better or for worse, the pandemic has forced everyone to think about who you're creating for.
I love it when people say, you can't, this is impossible. That's when you trigger me to go and do something. As an artist, you allow people to escape.
From our kitchen window is this building called the Big Pink. I spent the whole year photographing this building. It was a really wonderful and delightful way to process my feelings while still keeping my creative side.
I invented a way to have a still photograph where the only thing changing or evolving is the light.
The positive emotions that have lasted the longest have come from when I've been able to impact someone else's life. Last year really made it apparent that silence is not an option anymore.
I think for me, that's the purpose of an artist, to incite thought or to challenge
My work is an opportunity to be in a position to hear about a story I haven't heard before and help folks